So I just came home from work today and got greeted by an absolutely massive update for Dragon's Dogma 2. We're talking new game modes, adjustments to vocations, and some impressive performance improvements to top it all off. Just like we predicted, this update was much bigger than anyone could have anticipated. And although this would be nice to have a month after release instead, this is a very welcome update that solves a lot of the issues the player base have been facing for a long time. And it's looking really promising in regards to the DLC and the Tokyo Game Show next week. This update just reinforces my theory that they are really working hard to get the game ready for the upcoming expansion. So let's just dive right in and go through what I think is the most important changes in this update. First of all, we have a completely new game mode called Casual Mode. It's no hard mode yet, but this means they are working on gameplay adjustments, and that makes the chances for a hard mode in the future a lot higher. So Casual Mode introduces some much needed quality of life changes like reduced inn fees for staying at an inn, reduced price of ferry stones, which is something a lot of people struggled with, more difficult for weight carried to become heavy or very heavy. I love that. Less stamina expended when dashing outside of battle. This is also something I really appreciate. I use a mod to completely stop stamina usage out of combat, but this is a very welcome addition for console players. Loss gauge will not increase when selecting load from last save after the Arisen dies. Again, this just shows how much the team actually have listened to the feedback from the community, and they have basically included all of my wishes for the game in terms of adjustments in a single game mode. And I think Capcom is on their way to actually redeem the game here in September. Lastly, pawns will recover from Dragon's Plague without a devastating calamity occurring, even if the symptoms progress to a terminal stage. Now, outside of casual mode, we have a lot of changes and adjustments like adding a port crystal to Back Batal. I mean, finally, we had that for Wentworth and other key locations, so it's great that they gave us one for Back Batal as well. They have added more variations to Pawn's idle animations, and what I think is really interesting is that we now have an animation for when Pawns and the Arisen starts dashing, which we had even in the first game. They also added animations for when the Arisen is riding on a larger enemy that is flying at high speeds. We have further fixes to issues around CPU overload in certain situations and reduced frequency of crashes, which is just great to see. Then we have some further adjustments and fine-tuning of the different vocations. Now, I'm not going to go in detail for all these changes, but the most notable adjustments for the fighter is increased strength for all weapons, and reducing the amount of time before stagger damage reactions can be cancelled with Defend. They have reduced the charge time for Tusk Toss, which is crucial for every fighter, and they have increased the strength and knockdown power for almost all its primary skills in battle. So all in all, Fighter has gotten a really strong buff in this update. Warrior gets an extended input duration for Chain of Blows, which gives you a more casual timing window, and increase the timing in which the Barge skill can be cancelled while the user is unable to move after activation. They have also increased the strength for Arc of Might, that's a big W, and adjusting strike timing of Savage Lash and making it easier to hit larger enemies' weak points while they are downed. Archer gets faster and more powerful attacks as well as reduced weight for special arrows, which is a great quality of life improvement for archers. Mage gets a much needed power buff for many spells here, and an increased number of clusters conjured with high palladium to protect allies before they disappear. That's very nice for a support pawn. Thief and Mystic Spearhand get some minor adjustments as seen here. Now, there's a lot of minor changes and bug fixes mentioned here as well, but I'm not going to cover every single one because these are very situational. I'll just leave the patch notes here on screen for a sec, and you can pause the video if you want to study these in detail. What I want to mention though is some interesting UI and display changes. They have apparently been fixing an issue where a filter-like effect appeared on water surfaces after closing the shop menu, and an issue where distant shadows looked unnatural. I've noticed this before, so that's nice to know it's getting fixed in this update. Lastly, they have some miscellaneous fixes here in regards to some bugs in photo mode and black screen issues. And there you go. This update is by far the biggest we have seen so far. It's delivering on many of the core wishes the community have had for a long time now, and it's nice to be able to talk positive about Capcom for a change. They have really redeemed themselves with this update, and now I'm even more optimistic for the next week's Tokyo Game Show. It's a great time for Dragon's Dogma 2 fans, and I can't wait to see what they have in store for us next week.